Nobody talks about punters. Nobody buys their jerseys. Nobody chants their names. Nobody puts their posters on bedroom walls. When a team wins the Super Bowl, punters stand in the background of photographs while quarterbacks hold the trophy. They are ghosts wearing football uniforms. And that is the greatest injustice in professional sports. Because punters do not just flip field position, they save seasons. They rescue games that are slipping away. They give defenses the breathing room to make championship plays. Every Raiders victory you have ever celebrated was built partly on the leg of a man you probably cannot name. Today, that changes. These are the 10 greatest punters in Raiders history. The men who changed games without ever scoring a touchdown. The men who pinned opponents inside their own territory while receiving nothing but silence in return. The unsung heroes of silver and black. And by the end of this video, you will never watch a punt the same way again. Number 10. Mike Saxon. The Los Angeles years do not get enough respect in Raiders history. When the franchise moved south in 1982, they carried expectations that demanded immediate success. The silver and black had a reputation to maintain. Every position needed to perform at championship level. Mike Saxon understood this pressure. He joined the Raiders during an era when Los Angeles was still proving it deserved this legendary franchise. The spotlight burned hotter in Southern California. The media scrutinized everything. Mistakes were magnified by a market that had little patience for mediocrity. Saxon delivered consistency when consistency was desperately needed. His punts were not flashy, they were not record-breaking, but they were reliable. Game after game, he put the football exactly where the Raiders needed it. He gave defenses advantages that do not show up in highlight reels, but absolutely show up in victory margins. The Los Angeles Raiders needed a punter they could trust completely. Mike Saxon was that punter. Number 9. Greg Coleman. Some punts matter more than others. A punt in the first quarter of a September game is forgettable. A punt in the fourth quarter of a playoff game is immortal. Greg Coleman understood the difference. His tenure with the Raiders was brief, but his impact during pressure moments was undeniable. When the stakes escalated, Greg Coleman's legs seemed to gain extra power. When the season hung in the balance, his punts traveled further and landed softer. Playoff football is a different sport than regular season football. The speed increases, the hitting intensifies, the margin for error disappears completely. Punters who thrive in these moments are rare. Greg Coleman was one of them. His name does not echo through Raiders history the way it should, but the victories he contributed to are still celebrated. The field position he created still matters in the record books. Unsung does not mean unimportant. Number 8. Ray McDonald. Every franchise has seasons it wants to forget. The Raiders have experienced years where nothing worked, where the defense struggled, where the offense sputtered, where victories were rare and frustration was constant. Ray McDonald punted through those seasons. There is a particular kind of heroism in performing your job excellently when everything around you is collapsing. When your team is losing, when the stands are emptying, when hope has abandoned the sideline, you still have to do your job. Ray McDonald did his job. He punted under pressure that most fans cannot comprehend. He performed in games that were already decided, knowing that nobody was watching, knowing that his efforts would receive no recognition. But he performed anyway. The Raiders organization never forgot the men who carried the silver and black through difficult years. Ray McDonald was one of those men. His leg kept opponents pinned back when the Raiders had little else working in their favor. That kind of reliability deserves recognition, even if it comes decades late. Number 7. Shane King. Sometimes a player connects with fans in ways that statistics cannot explain. Shane King never made a Pro Bowl. He never set records that will be discussed for generations. His name does not appear in any Hall of Fame conversation. But Raiders fans loved him. There was something about the way he carried himself, something about his attitude,
something about the way he represented the silver and black mentality, even while playing a position that gets ignored. Shane King played like he understood what wearing that uniform meant. He played like every punt was personal, like pinning an opponent at the 5-yard line was an act of aggression rather than a routine play, like the punishment he inflicted through field position was just as valuable as the punishment linebackers inflicted through contact. Fans recognize authenticity. They recognized it in Shane King. His statistical legacy may be modest, his place in the record books may be humble, but his place in the hearts of Raiders supporters is secure. Sometimes being a fan favorite matters more than being a statistical champion. Number 6. Jim Breach. Quiet excellence is still excellence. Jim Breach never demanded attention. He never complained about lack of recognition. He never made himself the story when the story was supposed to be about the team. He simply performed, week after week, season after season, in games that mattered and games that did not. Jim Breach showed up and did his job with precision that coaches could rely upon absolutely. There is tremendous value in a player who requires no maintenance. Some athletes need constant motivation. They need speeches. They need attention. They need their egos managed carefully to produce results. Jim Breach needed none of that. Point him toward the football and he would punt it. No drama, no complications, no distractions from the mission at hand. The Raiders have always valued players who put team success above individual recognition. Jim Breach embodied that value completely. He sacrificed personal glory for collective victory. That sacrifice deserves to be remembered. Number 5. Steve Kiddwell. The hardest seasons to survive are the seasons nobody believes in you. Steve Kiddwell punted during years when the Raiders were rebuilding, when the roster was thin, when opponents did not fear the silver and black the way they once had. Those seasons test character in ways that championship runs never do. When you are winning, motivation comes easily. The cheers fuel you. The victories validate you. The path forward is clear and exciting. When you are losing, motivation must come from within. The silence is deafening. The losses accumulate. The path forward is foggy and uncertain. Steve Kiddwell found that internal motivation. He punted like a man who understood that rebuilding seasons are not less important than championship seasons. They are the foundation upon which championships are eventually built. Every strong punt during a losing year is an investment in future success. Every possession won through field position is a lesson for younger players about how to compete professionally. Steve Kiddwell invested heavily in the Raiders' future. That investment eventually paid dividends he never received credit for.
Number 4. Chris Barr. Versatility is the rarest quality in professional football. Most players master one skill. They become exceptional at one thing and ordinary at everything else. The demands of professional competition rarely allow for divided attention. Chris Barr defied that reality. He could kick, he could punt, he could deliver in clutch moments that lesser players crumbled under. His leg was not just powerful, it was adaptable. Whatever the Raiders needed from him, he could provide. Championship rosters are built on players who can fill multiple roles, players who reduce the number of roster spots needed for special teams, players who give coaches flexibility that opponents cannot match. Chris Barr gave the Raiders that flexibility. When the situation demanded a field goal, he delivered. When the situation demanded a punt, he delivered. When the situation demanded calm under pressure that most humans cannot access, he delivered. The Raiders won games specifically because Chris Barr could do things that required two players on other teams. That multiplication of value is irreplaceable. Number 3. Jeff Gosset. Longevity is its own form of greatness. Anyone can perform well for a season. Talented players emerge constantly, flash brilliantly, then disappear into obscurity. The league chews up specialists and discards them without sentiment. Jeff Gosset survived. Year after year, he remained the Raiders' punter, while other men came and went. Regimes changed. Coaches were fired and hired. Rosters transformed completely. Jeff Gosset remained. That kind of longevity requires more than talent. It requires adaptability. It requires professionalism.
It requires the ability to perform consistently regardless of what chaos surrounds you. The Raiders organization valued stability. They valued knowing exactly what they would receive from a player every single Sunday. They valued eliminating uncertainty wherever possible. Jeff Gosset eliminated uncertainty at the punter position for years. He was not flashy. He did not seek headlines. He did not demand attention that would distract from more glamorous teammates. He simply punted, consistently, reliably, decade after decade. When the Raiders needed to know that one position was handled, they looked at Jeff Gosset and felt peace. That peace has enormous value that statistics cannot capture. Number 2, Shane Lechler. The human leg is not supposed to do what Shane Lechler's leg did. Physicists could study his punts and struggle to explain them. The hang time defied gravity, the distance defied anatomy, the consistency defied probability. Shane Lechler was not a punter. He was a weapon of mass destruction disguised as a special teams player. For 18 seasons, he terrorized opponents with a leg that seemed connected to something supernatural. His average punt distance was absurd. His ability to pin teams inside the 10-yard line was unprecedented. His impact on field position was worth multiple points per game. The Raiders possessed Shane Lechler longer than any other team could claim him. During his years in Oakland, he made 7 Pro Bowls. He was named All-Pro 6 times. He set records that may never be broken. He redefined what was possible from the punter position. Opposing coaches built game plans around avoiding Shane Lechler situations. They would take risks on 4th down rather than give the ball back and face the consequences of his leg. They would accept field goals rather than punt to teams who would receive the ball with favorable field position thanks to Lechler's returns. That is dominance. When your opponent changes their entire strategy specifically to avoid what you do, you have transcended your position. Shane Lechler transcended punting. He turned a forgotten position into a competitive advantage so significant that it changed how games were coached. The Raiders understood what they had in him. They valued him appropriately. They built special teams concepts around maximizing his impact. Shane Lechler rewarded that faith with a career that will echo forever.
Number 1, Ray Guy. There is a reason the Ray Guy Award exists. Every year, the best college punter in America receives an award named after an Oakland Raider. Not a quarterback, not a running back, not a player from a glamorous position that television loves. A punter. Ray Guy earned that honor by changing the position forever. Before Ray Guy, punting was an afterthought. Teams assigned the responsibility to whoever could kick the ball reasonably far. Specialization was minimal. Technique was primitive. The position was not respected. Ray Guy demanded respect. His punts were not just long, they were architectural achievements. They climbed toward the sky and hung there, suspended by some invisible force, giving coverage teams time to sprint downfield and arrive before the returner could escape. Hang time became a measurable statistic because of Ray Guy. The Raiders selected him in the first round of the 1973 NFL Draft, a punter in the first round. The decision shocked analysts who could not comprehend valuing the position so highly. Those analysts were wrong. Ray Guy delivered 3 Super Bowl championships to Oakland. 3 times he stood on the biggest stage in professional sports and performed exactly as the Raiders needed him to perform. His punts in Super Bowl XI were masterpieces. His punts in Super Bowl XV were works of art. His punts in Super Bowl XVIII were the finishing touches on a dynasty. In 2014, Ray Guy was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He became the first pure punter to receive that honor. The wait was inexcusably long. Decades passed while voters debated whether a punter deserved enshrinement alongside quarterbacks and running backs and defensive legends. Ray Guy deserved it. He deserved it because he proved that every position matters. He proved that excellence at the highest level transforms games regardless of where you line up. He proved that a man who never scores touchdowns can still be essential to championships. The Raiders understood this before anyone else did.
They drafted him in the first round when the world laughed. They built special teams around him when other teams ignored the unit. They trusted him in moments when most organizations would have panicked. Ray Guy rewarded that trust with a career that redefined expectations. He is the greatest punter in NFL history. He is the greatest punter in Raiders history, and he is the reason that every punter who comes after him has a path to recognition. These 10 men share something important. They played a position that receives no glory. They performed jobs that fans barely notice. They contributed to victories that are credited to others. And they did it anyway. They did it because they loved the Raiders. They did it because they understood that championships are built on details. They did it because the silver and black meant something to them that transcended personal recognition. The next time you watch a Raiders game, pay attention to the punter. Watch how his leg changes the game. Watch how his placement affects defensive performance. Watch how his consistency creates opportunities that would not exist otherwise. Then remember the men on this list. Remember Ray Guy standing alone at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, representing every punter who was ever overlooked. Remember Shane Lechler launching footballs into orbit while coaches drew up plans to avoid him. Remember all 10 of these men who gave their bodies and careers to a position that most fans cannot be bothered to appreciate. They were not just punters. They were Raiders, and that means something that statistics can never capture.